Welcome everybody, Autumn Whit-Boyd here. I'm so glad to be back with you. We are starting a new series here on the podcast and our Facebook Live show. We are going to be talking about planning for your upcoming promotions. So I'm recording this in October, but we're going live on the podcast in November. And a lot of you are probably planning for your end of the year sales. Maybe you've got a launch coming up that you're planning for. Maybe you've got a Black Friday sale on the horizon or a holiday promotion that you're thinking about, or maybe you're planning for like a New Year's blowout. I will tell you here at the AWB firm, we are planning a December challenge. So stay tuned for that. Sign up for our email list if you're not already on it to make sure that you get all the updates about that. You can do that at awbfirm.com. We're going to do a challenge in December and then a big sale on our contract templates in January. So this is all very relevant to us. And I figured if we're planning for our promotions, you may be planning for your 2021, end of 2020 promotions as well. So today we're going to be talking about Facebook ads. Next week, we're going to be talking about using testimonials and social proof and, success claims and what are the rules and regulations about that. This is actually something that I feel like no one is talking about in the online business world. And I'm seeing people do it wrong all the time. We actually worked on this with one of our largest clients recently and helped her make some tweaks and make sure that everything was in compliance for a big launch that she went through. So you are definitely going to want to stay tuned. Hit subscribe in your podcast player, or if you're watching this on Facebook Live, make sure that you like our page so you'll be notified. You don't want to miss any of the episodes in this series. So my standard disclaimer, I am a lawyer. I'm licensed to practice in Tennessee, but nothing I'm talking about today is legal advice. Please just take it as information. It is just meant to get your wheels turning, get you thinking about what you might need to worry about, but it is not meant to be actual legal advice. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Facebook ads today and how you need to make sure you're doing those legally. I'm also going to talk about some trends that I'm seeing. I'm lucky that we work with a lot of 7- and 8-figure online course sellers. So we get to see kind of behind the curtain, and I never share anything confidential, but I do kind of have a bird's eye view from our work with them on some trends, what is working, what is not working. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. I am not going to get super into the nitty gritty of Facebook ads rules in this episode because I have already done that on this podcast. Go back, listen to episode 124 if you want to know more about making sure that your Facebook ads get approved the first time, why they might get rejected, some consequences of that. We dive deep into all of those rules in that episode. I'm going to give just a really brief overview in this one, just so we're all on the same page, but go listen to episode 124 if you want more about that. All right, so here is a general recap, general overview of what you need to know legally about Facebook ads. So, and I should mention, Facebook owns Instagram, so this applies to Instagram too. If you've been in the Facebook Ads Manager, you can run Instagram ads from there as well. It's all kind of the same platform. So everything I'm talking about, I'm going to just use the word Facebook because we talk about Facebook ads, but it all applies to Instagram as well. The first thing you need to know is that you as an advertiser are basically entering into a contract with Facebook. And so they make the rules because it's their platform. So they have all kinds of policies on their website. I will drop a link in the comments to the Facebook Live and we'll include it in the show notes for the podcast where you can just go directly to their policies. They are very long. They are constantly changing. So it is something especially if you've got a launch coming up, it's not a bad idea to just spend 15, 20 minutes kind of scrolling through, seeing if there's anything that pops out that's relevant to your industry or the kind of products that you're selling, or if you're an online course, the topics that you're going to be talking about, just to make sure there's nothing that you need to be aware of in your ads. So go check out the policies. The next thing to know, you already know this if you've run Facebook ads before, but if you are new to this, you may not, is that the ads are reviewed by a real person at Facebook. Or maybe a computer sometimes. I do believe some of it is algorithmic, but there is a review process. So you cannot just create an ad and start it running. It has to be reviewed. And I'll talk about when we get to trends that those review times used to be, maybe a couple hours, maybe a day or two. They are getting longer. So just be aware of that your ads are going to be reviewed for compliance with these rules. They're not going to just let you run. The good news is if you are denied, they will tell you why. So they'll tell you the rule you violated so that you can fix it. You can appeal that denial, but what I have found and what my clients have told me is that it is often quicker to just create a new ad or create a new ad set, edit, fix the mistake and submit it as a new ad, that sometimes works better than trying to appeal the denial. So you might try both, see what happens. But if you're denied, you will know why, and you can go fix it. So I'm going to very briefly go over the top 5 reasons your ad might be rejected. Some of these are legal, some of these are just practical. And this is not everything. Again, go listen to the past episode, and even that one doesn't cover everything. The Facebook ad policies go on for many, many pages. But the first thing to be aware of is that your landing page may be the problem. So it might not even be a problem with your ad at all. If your landing page, so this is the place that you are sending people with your ad. You have to send them somewhere. You have to include a link in your ad to someplace on your website or someone else's website. If that landing page is not compliant with all kinds of rules, your ad may be rejected. So your landing page has to match the ad copy. You can't talk about, for example, I just interviewed Jock Hopkins, one of our clients who sells a piano in 21 days course. Let's say your ad was about piano in 21 days, and you get to the landing page where the ad is sending you, and it's like health supplements or something totally unrelated. That's going to get you flagged. That's going to get you rejected. They do not want you to do a bait and switch. So it has to match the ad copy. It has to be relevant to whatever is on that landing page. The ad URL must match the landing page URL. So again, you can't include a link, and then when they go to the actual page, it doesn't match. That's going to get you flagged. It has to include your business address, your phone number, an email, and a privacy policy. This is, again, on your landing page, on the place where you're sending people, not in the ad itself. Now, quick plug, I mentioned we're going to be putting our templates on promotion in January, but they are always available, and we do have bundles that will save you a little bit of money. So if you don't have a privacy policy on your website, I don't know what you're doing, head on over to awbfirm.com and grab one. It will take you 15 minutes to fill in. It is the easiest legal protection that you can do to get your website totally compliant and make sure that your ads are not rejected because you're missing this required piece. So that privacy policy, again, on your landing page, on your website, not in the ad, that privacy policy has to be there. That is a very common reason for ads to get denied. Now, I have had clients say that they've gotten ads approved where the landing page didn't have a privacy policy, but I will tell you, as you scale your ads, as you start spending more money, as they get a higher level of review, you will get dinged. All right, the second reason is you're not following the community standards. So this is things like violating other people's copyrights, trademarks, or IP. If you are using a picture of a celebrity that you don't have permission to use, all of that can be flagged. If you're including things that are false or misleading, you can't do that. You got to follow those community standards. The third thing is there could be a problem with your actual ad, with the copy, with the images, or with the video. So a couple things just to be aware of here. Targeting personal attributes is not allowed. So these are things like if you're trying to target a particular race or religion or age or sexual orientation, gender identity, financial status, whether you have a criminal record, all of those things are a no-go. That Facebook does not want you including those kind of descriptive words so that you're targeting people in your ads. So stay away from that. And then all of the details of your ad created have to be true and accurate. So if it's very obvious that they're not, you're going to get denied. The next reason number 4, is that you are advertising something that is restricted. So this is something where sometimes you can get these through, but there may be extra hoops to jump through. So these are things like weight loss is really common to get flagged. You have to target over 18. You can't include before and after pictures, and it has to be not misleading or unrealistic. So lots of rules around that. If you are in that area, I suggest you dive into that deeper. As I said, I'm not going to do a super deep dive on each issue. Also, dating services, there are a lot of particular rules. If you, or even if you are selling, let's say, an online course to help people learn how to date or navigate dating services, you have to be pretty careful around that. There are others. That is not a total list. I just thought those were the ones that kind of caught my eye when I was thinking about the online course creators who are typically listening to this podcast. And then the last reason that we see ads get denied a lot is that you are advertising something that is prohibited. And this came up, I actually did another episode, 125, where I went over reasons that people have had their ad accounts totally disabled, which is a huge problem if you are getting ready for a launch. You may not get a warning. Your account may just be disabled, and it may take weeks, if not months, to get it back up and running, which is a huge problem if you're doing like a 1 week open cart or 10 days. You may not have that time for your ads to be totally down, or your launch may not work. So let's look at the things that are prohibited that we see get flagged and that have led to accounts being shut down. Anything that looks like an MLM, a multi-level marketing company. So these are things like I would call them pyramid schemes. I know there's a lot of different opinions out there, but things like doTERRA, Mary Kay, Tupperware, where you have people who sell in teams and they get a little percentage of the people below them, and there's a strong incentive to bring more people onto your sales team. Facebook will not allow MLM marketing. So if you are trying to market that stuff in an ad, it will get rejected. If it's anything that looks like it could be an MLM, even if it's not an actual MLM, you could get shut down. So anything that looks like a get rich quick scheme. I'm going to tell you a couple words that we have seen getting flagged. Work from home. We've had people get accounts shut down because they included that. Because again, it feels like it's preying on people a little bit. Talking about financial freedom or cash flow or, timeline. So in 5 years or less, you can do XYZ. Talking about making money. This is funny. When we ran our Facebook ads last year for our contract sale, I had an ad that talked about getting your clients to pay you on time. And that got flagged because I think it was because it was like the, make money, getting paid. So you just have to be careful around those and just be aware that may be an issue. And again, because these are things that you may not get a warning about, we're not just talking about your ads getting rejected. We're talking about potentially your account getting shut down because these are prohibited. I would not recommend testing these out during a launch. I would say if you are wanting to use ads like this, you want to test them earlier so that you're not going to be at risk of getting in trouble when you really need those ads to be running and those ads to be working. Anything sexually suggestive, so this is considered kind of adult content, is not allowed. This comes up with with ads for dating, women or men in suggestive poses, or I also have a friend who does boudoir photography, and that has come up for her. She's had to be very careful around what she can show in her ads or what words she can use so that she's not violating this, sexually suggestive issue. And then, of course, any kind of illegal activities, illegal drugs, illegal firearms, any of that kind of stuff is just not going to fly. Okay, so that's kind of a very broad overview. Now let's talk about some trends. I'm recording this, as I said, in October 2020. We are still in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. So what has changed since COVID? What are some trends that we are seeing this fall moving into the holiday season? As I mentioned before, review times are longer with Facebook. So one recommendation that I have seen is considering doubling down on the ads that you have already been running that are already working rather than testing out new ads at this point, because it may take a long time to get that ad through the review. We are running Facebook ads right now for the law firm for our contract templates. We're not seeing hugely long review times, but they're not short either. So, we haven't been waiting weeks, but it's definitely not been instant. In the past, it was, usually just a couple hours, maybe a day max. So just be aware that may be longer. Another big thing, and this, I am lucky in addition to working with a lot of 7- and 8-figure course creators, I'm in one of my favorite Facebook groups is full of them, and it's kind of secret. I got invited by my friend Lindsay Padilla to be in this group, and it gives a behind the scenes, and people are in all different countries. It's really interesting. But so I'm going to share some of the insights. We just had a really active thread last week about how people's launches are going, how their fall launches are going. And so this is some feedback that I was seeing. So there are a lot of launches, challenges, and other types of promotions going on right now. And the thought is people are really overwhelmed. And just in generally, people are scared. We've got this pandemic. We've got kids home from school. We've got an election coming up in the United States. And people are tired. I feel like we're all kind of maxed out, stressed out. We don't have, you guys may have read this article about the surge capacity. Normally when we have a time of stress, our body is able to kind of tap into adrenaline or to, additional capacity to handle that stress for a short period of time. And then we get back to normal. Well, it feels like we've been in surge, we've been using our surge capacity since March. So particularly on Facebook, I think there's a feeling that people are exhausted. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about especially your copy and what kinds of messaging you're using. Some of I think this is a good thing because I'm not a huge fan of, fear tactics, but some of the maybe messaging that people were using a year ago or 6 months ago may not resonate right now when people are kind of feeling like they're at their limit and they don't want to be stressed out. They don't want to feel under pressure to buy your thing. The next thing, as I touched on briefly, the election is coming up in the United States. Presidential, Senate, House, all kinds of local elections. As this is airing, it will be very soon. So we are seeing, in general, ad costs are up, launches are going slower. But what has still been successful, here's kind of the silver lining in a lot of doom and gloom of what I'm telling you about today, is that it's not that nothing is working. Here is what is working: adding a personal touch. Now, if you were hoping to enroll 10,000 students with just running Facebook ads, this might not be for you. But if you are running a smaller program, or especially a high ticket offer where you only need to enroll 10, 20, 50, 100 people to meet your goals, this is very doable. So these are things like reaching out to people who sign up for, let's say you do a challenge pre-launch. Reaching out to people individually, sending them a DM. If they sign up with an email for your webinar, sending them a little pre-recorded video that is personalized to them, that mentions them by name, that mentions maybe their business name by name. So it shows you've done a little bit of due diligence. That personal touch, people are really lacking right now. I think we're all isolated, working from home. If we're going into an office, we're still just kind of shut in the office. There's not a lot of socialization going on. And so that personal touch has been really, really worthwhile. It is more time. It is more energy. But I think you've got to ask yourself, what are you willing to put in to a launch to make it successful? And these are the things that we're seeing working. Another idea was when you send that email or that video or a DM, to invite them to dialogue with you, to say, hey, I'm happy to answer your questions. DM me back or email me back. I will answer you myself. Like, yes, it's really me. What questions do you have? So that you are in touch with them and it is more of a communication back and forth rather than you just targeting them with ads and emails that are clearly bulk, automated. Again, that personal touch is really working. And then potentially considering like a Q&A bot or some sort of tool on your website, same purpose, just having a real person there to answer questions. Or, you may have some pre-filled FAQs that pop up there. But that personal touch is working really well. So things to consider. I've got 3 more things to talk about. So retargeting is still working really well. So selling to warm audiences where they've either been to your website, they've liked your page, they've engaged with some of your content. When you're retargeting them, that is still working well. So consider what you need to think about pre-launch to get people engaged with you so that then you can retarget them. Or, it might be an abandoned cart retarget. There's lots of ways to do this, but that is still working very well. So consider that. And again, remember all the things I told you before about how you need to make sure your ad gets approved. We want those retargeting ads to work. We want them to get approved, not to be, in limbo or denied by Facebook or held up in review. Another bit of doom and gloom is that show up rates for webinars are very low right now. So the general feeling is that you should not count on just, a Facebook ad to a webinar being your only sales tool and only selling on the webinar and making a bunch of sales that way. You may make some, but a lot of it is going to be in the follow-up, in those personal touches with people who didn't come to the webinar, reaching out to them, giving them a replay option, lots of different ways you can engage people who didn't come to the webinar. But just be aware, you are probably going to be seeing very low show up rates for webinars. I think the other thing here, and I'm certainly feeling this, I was actually brainstorming with Sarah Kate, who is our marketing director here at the AWB firm. And we were thinking about doing a virtual something for our clients. And we just both kind of sat back and we were like, man, we are tired of Zooms. And we've always run our business on Zoom, so this is kind of nothing new for us. But now where I might be on Zoom all day and then go to a junior league meeting in person or a community board meeting in person or go have lunch with a friend, like all of that in-person stuff is now either not happening or it's on Zoom. I just had a junior league board meeting last night on Zoom. It is not the same. And so I think a lot of us are kind of zoomed out, especially if you're helping your kids with school. You're helping them with Zoom. So a webinar feels like a Zoom call, but even worse, it's even less interactive. You can't see the person, unless you are doing it through a platform that actually allows you to see the people's faces, which is not normally the case. But so think about that. Think about how webinars may feel to your audience right now and where they are, how much time they're already spending on Zoom for other parts of their work and home and personal life. It's not really surprising that show up rates for webinars are lower. On the bright side, this is what I'll leave you with. Tiny offers are still doing well. So you may have heard of these. You're probably seeing them a lot. We're seeing a ton of like $27 offers, maybe even up to $50. These are often the entry point to a funnel. So you may have heard of a SLO funnel, self-liquidating offer, where you're really just making enough on those little tiny offers to pay for your ad spend. So essentially your ads are free. And then once that person is in your ecosystem, you love on them, you provide them more value, and you hopefully upsell them into more expensive things that you're then not really having to spend Facebook ads to get in front of them on. So those tiny offers are still doing well. I think where we're really seeing the trouble is using Facebook ads to a webinar to a high dollar, $1,000, $2,000 course or something like that. Not to say that people are not having success. People are still having great launches, but I think that the tactics are a little different now. The Facebook ads are not alone, doing the job that maybe they did a year ago or 6 months ago. So here is a couple of other things that are coming before I wrap up. I did a little research before I hopped on here, and here's some news that you guys may not have seen. I had not seen it. Coming in 2021, Facebook is going to be limiting the number of ads each page can run. And this is really important. I still think it's plenty of ads for most businesses who are listening. But if you are someone who ran a lot of different variations on ads, listen up. So it's going to be 250 ads per page for small to medium pages. So these are with less than 100,000 in ad spend and their highest spending month over the past 12 months. I think that's going to be a lot of us. 1,000 ads per page for medium and large pages. These are pages with ad costs from 100,000 to $1 million in their highest spending month. Again, that's 1 month spend, not the whole year, in the past 12 months. If for larger and largest, 5,000 ads per page if your ad spend is $1 million to $10 million in a month, or 20,000 ads for the largest pages if you've got over 10 million in ad spend over a single month. I don't think that's going to be most of our listeners. I think that's mostly corporate America. But just FYI, these are things to be aware of that may impact you coming up. And then the other big change that is coming, and this is linked to something I mentioned a minute ago. I mentioned that retargeting is working great. Take advantage of that while you can, because there are changes coming. Apple's latest operating system, iOS 14, is coming, and they are changing. They're basically flipping the way people control use of their data, which is how people are retargeted. If you land on a website, it puts a cookie and Facebook knows that you've been on that website, and that's how you get retargeted. Well, now users are going to have to opt in to that rather than now you have to opt out. They're changing the default setting. So you are not going to be able to retarget people as easily in the future. So just be aware, if you are relying heavily on that, use it now because it is about to go away. All right, that wraps up prepping for your promotions and working on Facebook ads. If you want to get a guide to make sure that your website is legally set up the right way, all the things you need to get your Facebook ads approved the right way the first time, go to the show notes page for this episode. It's awbfirm.com/podcast163, and you will be able to grab that. We'll also put that link in the show notes so you can click on it from your podcast player. You can get that free download. It will guide you on what you need and help give you some swipe copy to get some things like disclaimers and all of that jazz up on your website. Easy peasy. All right, I will talk to you guys next week. As I mentioned, next week we're going to be talking about FTC regulations of using testimonials, earnings, disclaimers, what you can and can't say about other people's results as you're advertising and promoting your products and your courses. So hope you guys have a great week. I will see you then.